Hey, welcome. Today, we're diving deep into the architecture of thought itself. We're going to explore a different and honestly a much more powerful way of thinking that some of the sharpest minds out there use to get a real edge. So, let me ask you something. Are you living on autopilot? You know that feeling, right? You get to the end of the day and realize you just kind of reacted your way through it, bouncing from one email to the next, from meeting to notification, all on pure instinct. If that sounds even a little familiar, well, you know what it's like to be on autopilot. And look, that reactive state, that's the starting point for most of us. You could call it the autopilot brain. And in our crazy, fast-paced world, it's pretty much become the default mode for modern life. I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? Our brains are literally wired for efficiency, and reacting fast feels super productive. But this really frames the whole thing as a choice of priority. We are constantly, whether we know it or not, choosing speed over depth. And while that's a totally normal human thing to do, it's definitely not the only way to operate. So, what's the alternative? This is the core secret right here. The most effective thinkers, they've learned to operate on a completely different frequency. They consciously tap into what psychologists sometimes call System 2 thinking. And that frequency is all about slow thinking. Now, what is that? It's really the intentional act of letting your deliberate, analytical mind take the steering wheel from your faster, more impulsive instincts. And let's be super clear, it's not about literally thinking slower. It's about making analysis, not impulse, the dominant force driving your decisions. This really lays out the two modes perfectly, doesn't it? You've got autopilot on one side, fast, reactive, impulsive, and then you've got analytical processing, slow, strategic, reflective. The goal here is never to get rid of your instincts. They're valuable. It's about knowing when to hit the pause button and engage that more strategic part of your brain instead. Ooh, I love the key verb here, refine. A deep thinker treats a decision not as some finish line they have to cross, but more like a rough draft that needs to be improved. The whole process isn't about speed, it's about quality. And that quality, well, it comes from reflection. Okay, so we get the what, but now let's get into the how, right? How do you actually build this capacity for deep thought? Well, it really boils down to three essential pillars that make up the anatomy of a truly analytical thinker. Let's see how this all connects. It all starts with that commitment to reflection we were just talking about. But check out the other two pillars. They're all about creating the right environment to make that reflection happen. You have to intentionally create mental space for yourself, and you have to actively prioritize solitude. And trust me, these aren't just nice suggestions. They are absolutely non-negotiable. You know, that idea of mental space brings us to this really crucial concept, cognitive quiet. Now, this isn't about trying to empty your mind or meditating for hours. Think of it more like decluttering your mind. It's that intentional act of turning down the volume on all the daily noise and distractions, so your analytical thoughts actually have room to breathe, connect, and grow. So here's the big takeaway from all this. Slow thinking isn't some switch you can just flip in the middle of a chaotic day. It's a really delicate mental state. And for it to perform at its absolute peak, it demands the right conditions. And those conditions are mental space and solitude. Okay, I get it. This might sound like a lot of work. So, what's the real payoff? Why should you even bother? Well, because the benefits aren't just some minor improvements here and there. They really amount to a genuine cognitive superpower. So when you consistently operate in this mode, you start to develop these key traits. First, you gain much greater mental flexibility, which lets you see problems from totally new angles. And that's fueled by a high capacity for self-reflection, which then leads to the ultimate outcome. You become significantly more self-aware than the average person. Let's just pause on this for a second, because this is the real game changer. Self-awareness isn't just knowing your strengths and weaknesses. It's about understanding why you think the way you do. It's about recognizing your own biases and your own mental models while they're happening. And that changes absolutely everything. So we'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. In which area of your life, maybe it's your career, your relationships, your own personal growth, where could creating a deliberate space for cognitive quiet have the most profound impact for you? Finding that answer? Well, that's the very first step in building your own architecture of thought.